Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the webinar. We're going to give around a minute or so for everybody to have an opportunity to join, and then we'll get started. So about 12:01. Hello, everyone. So we're going to start in about a minute's time. So just giving everybody an opportunity to join. In the meantime, I'll just keep on repeating that. So, okay. Um, welcome, everyone. Welcome to this latest session in the Legal Modern Workplace webinar series. Today's session is focused on creating a law firm management ecosystem. And this is, as I said, part of the Legal Modern Workplace webinar series, where myself and a number of guests over a seven-part webinar series and white paper are exploring the challenge facing law firms in connecting their legal tech tools together to create a joined up legal tech strategy. And with a particular focus on how do they balance and combine both legal tech software and also the Microsoft tooling that's available and most widely used by law firms. So the white paper was released a few weeks ago now and gained some real excellent traction. And that white paper is focused around what we've called the legal modern workplace. And Ben, if you want to change the slide, so the legal modern workplace is a wheel, as you can see on your screen there, and it tries to join up tech strategy with both legal software and Microsoft 365 to create a roadmap to creating that modern workplace experience. So you can see there's multiple segments that we explore and the technology that fits within those segments. And today we're focused on that real core platform, the heart of a legal modern workplace strategy, which is case and practice management. So today we're joined by two fantastic guests to explore this conversation of creating a law firm management ecosystem. We have this hopefully is the only section where I've got to read from notes, but we've got the wonderful Oliver Trump, Regional Vice President of Action Step here in the UK. Oliver leads the UK operations of the growing Action Step team, growing all the time. He's constantly on interviews. He was informing me only a few minutes ago, and has become a super insightful voice on what great looks like for law firm tech strategy. Action Step's cloud-based legal practice and accounting management software keeps the law firm organized by managing and automating everything from matters to accounting and documents in one centralized platform, accessible from anywhere. So Oliver's going to bring lots of insight from the practice management side of things about how to create this ecosystem and for the law firm to have a roadmap in front of them. And then we're also joined by Philip Nairn, co-managing director of Exizent. Philip's got experience operating outside of the legal sector with Google's UK team and within the legal sector across Exizent and also a leading case management system provider. Philip is an insightful voice on how impactful a joined up tech strategy can be. From an Exizet point of view, it's specially designed for legal and accounting professionals. It's a cloud-based platform which allows probate professionals and their teams to streamline and efficiently deal with the administration of a deceased estate without the need for intensive product training or configuration. So Philip's very much bringing that point of view from that specialist tool that's looking to integrate with practice management systems and facilitate an enhanced workflow flow for the law firm. So yeah, so if we want to kick off, we'll get started. So hello, Oliver, and hello, Philip.
Hello.
Hi, guys. Yeah, so to start off, just so going to split the conversation into three sections, really. First of all, setting the scene as to understanding the challenges that we feel law firms are facing at the moment. So a view from the front line of legal tech. Then, how are law firms, looking to deal with these challenges of connecting their tech strategy together optimize the client journey as well as internal operations. And then, what's a better way of doing it? If we think there's a better way of doing it. And then just finally closing off with some advice for law firms that feel that they're at a bit of a crossroads, maybe some takeaways that they can go off and implement to be able to start getting to grips with the challenges that they're facing. So to start off with, setting the scene around the challenges that we feel that law firms are facing. If I start with yourself, Oliver, from your vantage point, what does the typical law firm technology landscape look like today? And where do you see the biggest points of friction?
Yeah, I mean, we speak all day with mid-size and small law firms, and some increasingly kind of larger law firms these days. And um, every firm we speak to, literally every firm we speak to, has accumulated tech over time. And even if they're on a slightly more modern system, they've kind of accumulated tech here and there for various needs on, AML or compliance or for specific practice area types as well. And a lot of them feel like they don't have a very um, sort of like comprehensive strategy for their tech. And so, um, for the firms that, more than half the firms in the UK are still on legacy systems, so on-premise systems. And for those firms in particular, they might be using a number of different tools that they've adopted over time that don't necessarily integrate. And so there's rekeying of data. There's friction where there's not automation, but actually there's a lot of manual effort that's required to use the different systems, and there's probably overlap as well in some of the tech that these firms have adopted, where they actually might not need some of the tech that they have, or they might not be using it in the proper way. So I think, yeah, it's pretty messy. Most firms feel like their tech stack is not necessarily as like a strategy, and it's just kind of messy. Um, and wherever they're at on this journey, kind of feel like there's some room for improvement and streamlining and putting more kind of thought into what that kind of ecosystem should look like.
And from your side, Philip, do you see the same thing? So I think Oliver's pointed towards tooling that maybe doesn't integrate smoothly, some overlap in tooling. You're obviously coming from the angle of a specific function that you're trying to reduce the friction, and therefore you want to integrate with these tools. Do you see the same thing?
Yeah, we do to an extent. I mean, similar to Oliver, I mean, we work at firms at all sizes, from kind of sole users up to kind of third private client teams of over 100 people. And it's interesting because although probate you feel is a set process where you have to go from a journey from A to B to C and all the way to the end, we see such a varying way that firms have done this over the years, and there's no correlation with kind of size with how they've approached this. You've got one end of the spectrum, which is certainly the largest end of the spectrum, where firms have not relied on technology specifically for probate. They're doing things we say manually. But by manually, I mean maybe a mix of some stuff in a legacy PCMS system. Most of it sits on spreadsheets. Now, there's nothing wrong with spreadsheets. I think all of us probably use spreadsheets in our daily lives and couldn't live without them. But is it an efficient way to run a private client practice? Maybe not. And then going and manually completing estate accounts, forms, and no real utilization of technology. And I think that represents probably a larger section for us of the market than maybe what Oliver sees, because they will normally have a broad case management system in, albeit legacy, at the moment. And I think even leaning into what Oliver mentioned there about some of the firms where they've amalgamated a mix of different software packages over the years, we do see that where they've kind of created a pseudo Exodus Light using an old PCMS system, some spreadsheet, and maybe some source of form production. But although that solves some problems around actually getting some of those forms produced automatically, it introduces its own challenge and risks of getting those systems and data from one into the other without having it all joined up. So you solve one problem and give yourself two or three with a more complex, non-joined up tech stack. So yeah, we really see a wide variety, but by way and large, probably two steps before some of the technology that you would see at a general practice level.
And what's the impact of that? So, obviously you're going in to solve a specific problem and you're really focused on a specific workflow. So both from a client point of view and the legal ops point of view, what's the impact of that lack of integration or poor integration? What's the impact?
Yeah, I think they differ slightly depending whether you're looking through the lens of a client or the lens of actually a user or a firm. I mean, from a client's perspective, it's speed. Like, we've got changing consumer behaviour where people want stuff quicker, faster, better, and a firm's ability to have a seamlessly joined up process, load data onto a portal, get that push through, get end results quicker is really important from a client satisfaction perspective. But from a firm's perspective, I mean, risk is just the silent killer that firms are always aware of, certainly when it comes to having to have data set across multiple different platforms. And I think certainly in this area, it's not been something that's so easily addressed. And I think that's due to limitations in technology more than actual willingness or want from a firm. And then just process and efficiency. I mean, firms continue to look at ways to be more commercially competitive, and actually having that joined up ecosystem allows them to do that and keep ahead of the pack. So yeah, I think different benefits on both sides of the fence.
And Oliver, that how much of this challenge you mentioned legacy PMS? How much of the challenge comes from legacy PMS systems potentially not being built originally to integrate with specialist tools such as Exozent or others?
Yeah, I mean it's a huge challenge for firms for a number of reasons. I mean, one, a lot of the legacy PCMS systems, they're really robust. They have incredible functionality, incredible breadth of functionality. Like Philip was saying, they do elements of what Exocet does, and just maybe one kind of small part of it. They might do some elements of onboarding, but not the full thing. And so, no one system can do everything. And especially as, processes have changed, regulations have changed, expectations from clients have changed over the years. No legacy PCMS does everything, even the ones that have the most functionality. But obviously now, with the increasing move to the cloud, you can't just write a cloud version for a legacy PCMS. I mean, it takes years and years and years and incredible investment. And some of the suppliers are on that journey or have attempted to do that, but you're writing an entirely new software program, and so even if you do that, it's not going to look the same as the legacy one. So I think there is a change that is happening with the move to the cloud. A cloud system is not going to do everything that like a legacy PCMS does, but it has to do all the foundational things, the core things, and then it has to be easy to connect to the other tools. Because I think that was the reason why it was really challenging, or historically has been challenging to integrate with some of the legacy PCMS systems. A is because they do a lot of that. There's overlap in functionality that they do themselves. In some cases, these organizations that own some of the legacy systems might actually own their own versions of the different software as well in the ecosystem. So therefore, they really want to keep their customers using all of their own solutions, not necessarily using a different solution over here that might compete with one of their internal solutions. And then also, just from a technical standpoint, a lot of these legacy systems don't have the right API infrastructure for integration with other tools. So there's a number of sort of headwinds that law firms using legacy systems have been facing over the last several years, which is why a lot of them have been making that step towards moving to a cloud system that is more open, more flexible. But even amongst the more modern cloud suppliers on the market, that's not always the case. There's a range of API capabilities and a range of sort of approaches that the different suppliers have towards integration, towards ecosystem. So yeah, I think it was just too time consuming and too expensive, really, on a legacy system to have the sort of like ecosystem integration first approach.
Yeah, and there's only so much there's only so many developers within, even the
Mhm.
largest consolidators, and you have to choose your battles. And
Mhm.
there's this whole, drive to for the law firms to the drive for law firms to focus on looking at cloud native products, moving
Mhm.
to true cloud solutions. And that's a big engineering job. And at the
Mhm.
same point, there's integrations with products that are being purchased and so on and so
Mhm.
forth. Yeah, so it's these legacy PMS systems. Yeah, it's challenging turning them into this. They were attempting to be all in one previously, and to try and stick on that track, and also become cloud native at the same time. From your point of view, Philip, how has consolidation in the legal market, the acquiring of these legacy PMS systems, has it made it easier or harder for specialist tools such as Exizent?
I mean, undoubtedly easier. I would be lying if I said otherwise. So, kind of touching on the previous point, we have gone through that process of integrating with some of those legacy systems. As Oliver rightly said, it's very often painful, expensive, time consuming. That also then needs managing individually,
Mhm.
and that unfortunately puts it out of the reach of a lot of the kind of small to lower mid-sized firms. So we've gone through that process, but they're typically with larger private client teams, larger firms with larger budgets, and actually the benefits are just as great at smaller firms as they are larger firms. And I think that shift across to, as you say, the kind of consolidated services to more of a cloud-based infrastructure means, similar to the integration we've got with ActionStep, it doesn't cost us anything to roll it out. Every client has access to that. We manage it in conjunction with ActionStep. We're also always looking at ways of improving that. So we've worked with our mutual clients. I mean, that's how the whole thing happens. ActionStep came and picked up, it seems, half the market over the course of the year, including a load of our clients. We had mutual clients that said, look, we love these two bits of software, but what would be really cool is if I can get the data from here over to here. And actually, because it's cloud based, yeah, we can do that and we can build on
Mhm.
that and we can control that. The limitations are for legacy systems on prem, but we can do that. But there's just an ongoing inherent cost to manage that, to improve that, and to update that if they roll out an update, which then impacts some of the mapping for the field. So there's just not only the technical challenge initially for us, but that ongoing kind of, you wouldn't call it tech debt, but just maintenance of this integration to keep it live, where we between us don't struggle with that. So yeah, as I say, it's been a brilliant shift in the industry for us that we've seen over the last kind of 2 or 3 years, because it's played into exactly what we've always wanted, which is that kind of self-contained ecosystem that you have someone like actually set the nucleus at the middle and supply specialist tools that sit around
Mhm.
it like ourselves.
So, Oliver, Phillips pointed towards something I've heard you raise before, in terms of that heart of the ecosystem being
Mhm.
a PCMS platform, and then plugging the specialist tools in place. Is that a good way to view it? What, from your point
Mhm.
of view, what does a well-designed ecosystem look like, I suppose?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that is how we see it. The PCMS is sort of the core. And again, that also may include DMS. In our case, obviously we have Action Step is PMS, CMS, DMS in one. But again, our DMS might not be the right DMS for every firm that wants to use Action Step. And so we also integrate with NetDocuments and iManage. And so again, it's giving firms that kind of flexibility and choice to pick the tools that really work for them and their firm and their way of operating. But the PCMS that is the core, and there's a lot that still includes. I mean, Action Step, like I learn new things every single day about what our software can do, and we're constantly developing it based on feedback from our customer group. So that it's still a huge piece of technology, but because it has the financial data in it, because in many cases, in most cases with our customers, it also includes all of the documents. It includes all of your precedents, and I mean, there's so much data that's in the system that data is really valuable. I think it was. Maybe Bill Gates or someone or Mark Benioff or someone that said that data is the new gold, and it's really true. In where we're moving with AI technology, data is so incredibly important, and that data has to be in a certain format. It has to be accessible, but it has to be secure. It has to abide by various permissions and things like that. And all of that lives within the PCMS, or it should, I think, live within the PCMS. So there's so much other data that surrounds that's really important, but if that's not easily and kind of automatically going into the PCMS, then your data is incomplete, and that can introduce all kinds of challenges and risks. And so yeah, the having a um, like a comprehensive sort of core is really important, and that has to be able to then connect to everything around it. So without like a modern kind of API infrastructure, that's challenging, really challenging to do and to kind of upkeep.
And how do you choose what to build natively and what to look to integrate with or to open up in or embrace partners such as
Yeah.
Philip?
It's a really good question. I mean, I'd love to have every integration be native because but product teams are always like dealing with competing priorities and things like that. Usually, we look at user experience, like we want the integration. Ultimately, the integration has to add value. It has to be effective. It has to be as seamless as possible, and not cumbersome, basically, to upkeep or administer. So. There's more than one way of achieving that. And some integrations actually lend themselves really well with an API because it's literally, we just need to trigger the data passing back and forth in various, instances. So that actually can work really well with like an API integration. Certain things, like if you think of a DMS integration, we integrate with NetDocuments and iManage. You can't necessarily have like an API, just a pure API integration. It just like from a user experience standpoint, if you imagine Fearner using a document management system, like if it feels separate and if it's separate, it doesn't work very well. So for our DMS integrations, we just iframe it in. Basically, it's a native integration that just iframes the DMS into action steps. So it feels as if it's still kind of one system because DMS is such a key part. Also, like DocuSign is kind of it's one that's used by so many of our customers, and so that was one that we did natively. We've done a handful of other ones, but usually it's just based on how valuable will this be to our customers? Is it worth our devs spending some time building a native integration, or actually can we deliver the same level of value just by like a pure API integration that either we do or the partner like Exzend does, or maybe even a third party like Nexion, so yeah, it's more we kind of look at it based on user experience and what's going to give the best experience to our customers ultimately.
And I love that. I love that because as somebody that's built a previous business on hosting legacy applications that had to be delivered in quite a complicated manner through virtual desktops and so on and so forth, the user experience has historically, and for a lot of law firms that are watching now, the experience isn't great. It's fragmented. They're not getting all of the functionality. Maybe some of the Office 365 products, such as Teams Video, in the same window as their PMS and so on and so forth. So yeah, improving that starting with the client experience, the user experience is key. And we want as few windows as possible. You've said about using the iframe of getting the DMS within Action Step. That's exactly what law firms want. Law firm users want a simple user experience with efficiency behind it. From yourself, Philip, what does a clean, well-structured integration look like from your side? And what does it enable for firms?
Yeah, I mean, the utopian view, as we kind of just touched on there, would be having a lovely native integration that kind of feels seamlessly part of it. But I think for what we're looking to achieve when you factor in again development, time, cost, and maintenance, what our users are looking to achieve from that is they will invariably bookend their process by way and large of the PCMS. So they're going to onboard their client, get all that initial client data. They're going to have an initial kind of group of data that they're going to load into the case. Now, historically, or without integration, when you move into either a specialist tool or you go and put this data into a spreadsheet or any court forms, you're having to retype all of that data again, which again, going back introduces risk, just takes time. Nobody enjoys doing that process, and no one enjoys volume-based data entry when you've just done that data previously. So when Action Step and ourselves spoke about it, and the same with other suppliers, is actually what is the easiest, most user-friendly way of getting data from A to B seamlessly, so you have that kind of handover point with a continuation of work without having to disrupt and rekey additional data. So we've actually changed this quite recently. So historically, we used to have this as a kind of middleware that would pull data from ActionStep, you would check it, and then it would put it into Exizent based on client feedback and always looking at ways to improve and refine that. Now that sits within Exizent, so that will hook up with ActionStep. You will get a matter list of all your probate files, and then you can select which ones as a user I want to pull across into Exizent. And from our user's perspective, that takes away, going back to the kind of user journey, an additional step that they had to do outside one of those two systems, which is really key for just adoption as much as anything else. And they can then just choose that and have that automatically ported into the environment that they're working in. Because they won't always want every single case porting across into Exizent. They will want to manage and control that list. So giving the user the ability to go and choose that and select when they want to pull it in, what they want to pull it in, kind of fits best, as we've seen, for that user journey and how they like to work on a day-to-day. But I mean, that's just creating the case. What we're looking at the moment is actually going back. We touched on DMS. We have DMS. ActionStep has DMS. They may use iManage as something else. Actually, where do those documents need to live? How can we improve some of those integrations of getting some of the documents that we automatically produce? So the state accounts, IHT forms. We also do all our precedency correspondence. Some people use it in ActionStep. Some people will use it in Exizent. But from a user's perspective, well, they're going to want that back in their DMS for compliance reasons. So again, how can we just look at reducing those barriers and speeding that process up and just reducing the amount of clicks it takes to progress a file? Because certainly when we're looking at scale, that adds up very, very quickly across the firm and removes the chance of somebody not remembering to move one file from A to B. And obviously then you're missing that for invariably when you're going to need it in 6 months' time.
Yeah, and Oliver's already touched upon that single source of truth from a data point of view. That's the huge, one of the prerequisites and a huge benefit of a good integration in the fact that not just for future AI use and obviously minimizing risk because you're having data in fewer locations, but also the immediate insight that you can start gathering from that from a business intelligence point of view. So the strategy that you try and follow, Oliver, from ActionStep and one you believe in is the PMS, the PCMS is the single source of truth, and then the integrations, work from a workflow point of view and a functionality point of view.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's been top of mind for us in the past year because we've been doing a lot of investment in our own sort of business intelligence reporting tool, as well as doing some investment in AI. And we've also had some integrations that we've done with some AI companies, and so yeah, we spent a lot of time kind of figuring out what the best sort of architecture and infrastructure looks like and what it needs to look like to enable those tools, both our own tools and integrations. And yeah, it's all about complete, accurate, clean data, essentially. And many firms who have adopted multiple tools over, a period of time and who are on a legacy system might have some pretty messy data. And actually, so many firms these days are thinking about making this move. I mean, we're bringing, probably 4 or 5 firms over to ActionStep a month in the UK and for the last couple of years. And so all of these firms that are doing that are on that journey and they're making that change, it's actually a really good chance to sort of look at the data. We have firms that are like, yeah, we're just going to bring everything into ActionStep. And then they're like, actually, maybe we don't want to bring everything in because we have a lot of data that's duplicated. We have this same person in there 7 times with their name just like slightly different. And so it can be a really good chance actually to sort of reset a little bit and again, start with a clean, strong foundation, plug the different things in, and and then it makes firms way more ready for adopting AI. A lot of firms that I speak to have tried to adopt AI tools, and it hasn't gone that well. Like they're piloting Copilot or trying other various things, or CoCounsel or something, and they're really struggling to get the full functionality that they want from the AI because of the rest of the tools or the kind of messy data. So
Yeah, and so in our last session, Derek Southall talked about how open APIs can lead to better innovation, because he paints the picture that you've got a super energetic, innovative head of department that wants to use technology to improve the client journey and internal operations. But actually, the new tool that they identify that can help them do this, they're not able to integrate it into their PCMS. So talked about lack of integration, stifling innovation, and obviously in the age of AI, the opportunities are going to come thick and fast in terms of using new tooling. So without putting you on the spot, Oliver, how do you ensure Action Step remains open and avoids becoming a closed ecosystem as you grow, so that the future innovators still have the ability to use great new tools, or not, great emerging tools and specialist tools
Mhm.
like Exizent?
Yeah, I mean it's a great question. It's certainly part of our DNA, I would say, and it's always been kind of a core part of our business model and our approach to partnership and our approach to tech is really enabling the like extensibility of Action Step. That's something that we say a lot internally, making Action Step more extensible because there's so much good tech out there, so much good innovation. I mean, like there's probably a reason why no PCMS supplier has ever really truly nailed probate, for instance, because it's hard and it's complex, and that's why something like Exozin exists. It's a specialist tool that does this better than probably anyone else. And so we love good tech. We're really passionate about good tech, but we also are realistic and we know that we can't be all things to all people. Even the biggest tech suppliers in the world recognize that. If you look at like even Microsoft and Google, they have invested so much in the sort of integration and extensibility type like infrastructure. So yeah, we made the decision a long time ago to really focus on platform and to focus on integration, and so we're constantly investing in that, and trying to think about ways that we can make it easier for firms to integrate with us, ways that we can make it easier for our customers to innovate on top of Action Steps. So we have we've kind of identified what we believe are the core things that PCMS should include. Like we actually do think that case management is core. That's not something that should be kind of shipped off. We think accounts is core. DMS is obviously core. Um, Document automation, integration with Office 365. Like there's certain things that are absolutely core that we're just doubling down on and investing in, and we'll continue to invest in. But we also, we are very firm in certain things that we know we're not going to go do. Like I don't think that we're going to go build a, you know, full AML IDV kind of tech with an Action Step. Why would we do that when there's so many great suppliers on the market already doing that, and we've got really good relationships with a lot of them. So yeah, I think from our standpoint, it's recognizing what is core in what we think is core in a PCMS, what we believe is our true kind of USPs, and then doubling down on that, getting feedback from our customers, continuing to innovate and improve in that area, and letting the other kind of specialist suppliers do the same in their areas, and kind of bring those things together. So yeah, but as far as the like infrastructure and kind of integration side of things goes, we're continually investing in that side of the business, and yeah, trying to improve our API continually, improve any other kind of integration tools, and yeah, just make it easier for people.
Yeah, it's great to hear, because I think that you give law firms a couple of superpowers, and that's choice and agility.
Hmm.
Obviously, I've sat on boards of consolidators, and dealt with clients that have struggled moving forward their tech strategy because they're not able to choose their tool of choice and
Hmm.
integrate it quickly and easily. So, giving that choice and that power to law firms is absolutely huge,
Hmm.
as well as obviously the benefits of being browser based. I mean, we love Exizent, although they're on here. The reason why we love it is because it's that browser based capability, and the fact that it integrates with ActionStep is huge. It allows us on the Microsoft and IT side of things to move forward the broad tech strategy for law firms, whereas previously even if they go to a browser-based PCMS like ActionStep, if their legacy support specialist tools are still need hosting, then the broader tech strategy can't move forward. So it's great to hear that you're gonna stick with that, for the long term. Philip, for yourself, thinking about, so we've talked about the challenges that law firms are facing in having a bit of a fragmented tech strategy at the moment. How previously have they tried to solve that? Well, the all-in-one solution, the all-in-one platform, using consolidators with their plethora of acquired products. We've mapped out actually, well, what's a better place to be? Open API, the ability to choose the right tools and the agility to innovate and to adopt emerging technologies. So we've kind of mapped what good looks like, but to kind of focus on advice and takeaways in terms of those law firms that are at a bit of a crossroads and looking to move forward. So can I ask you what an important step would be for a firm that can make that are looking to choose a specialist tool and fit it effectively within their ecosystem? What should they be looking for in a vendor, and also, I suppose, from the PCMS provider as well?
Yeah, it'll sound silly, but speak to us. Like we do this a lot. Both ourselves as a firm, we've got a lot of experienced people that have helped roll this out in Exisen into existing, maybe legacy workflows, or as part of a wider project, which is what we're doing more and more of at the moment. And actually, how does that fit in? What are the best gates to do it? Going back to the point of data portability, is it actually better to have a clean, fresh start or migrate some of that? That's all stuff that we can have conversations with people about, the same as the guys at ActionStep. But if they're not certain, intermediary partners like yourself, Matt, there are people they can go and speak to and get counsel. This is a less of a significant move moving to something like Exisen because they're normally coming from a void and they don't have something there historically. So that's a bit of a greenfield project in most scenarios, which is much less painful than when I'm going to move from a PCMS we've used for 20 years, which is a bit creaky, to something new, modern, intuitive like ActionStep. Well, that's a much bigger project. Go out, speak to somebody, get some independent advice on that. There are a load of people out there that work with all of us, respectively, as partners, who are able to go and help you do that. And I think the best advice from a vendor perspective, if I was a law firm now going out looking at new software, because we talked about actually what problems do we solve today? Like, this is what I need to do, but as is very evident over the last few years, I think the pace at which technology is changing is increasing. We've been doing this for 5 and a bit years, and we've seen that kind of pace accelerate over that time, and the trend accelerates. So not only understanding, well, actually, does it solve what we have today, but understand, well, what is that going to solve the problems we might have in 1, 2, 3, 4 years' time? Now, any software provider that says, I know what my roadmap is for 5 years, is probably telling a bit of a fib. But you should have a general sense, as we touched on today, this is the direction of travel that we want to go in. And knowing that your new technology partners, be that ActionStep as a PCMS, Exisen as a probate provider, or another tool for something like AML or DMS, is that going to service our needs in 2, 3 years' time? Or are we going to be back having the same conversation because we bought a product that hasn't had further investment, further refinement, further quality improvements for their clients over that period? So I think that is, when we have conversations, people understand the here and now, but we don't really have engaging conversations unless prompted by us about, well, actually, what are your plans over the next few years? Where does this sit in your actual technology strategy for the foreseeable future? Well, they've kind of only thought up to the point of getting this change done, and that's the start of the journey, not the end of the journey.
Yeah. A joined up application. I think so few firms have a joined up application strategy and quite often make decisions in silos, in isolation. And I mean, we work implementing PMS. We obviously are an Action Step partner, and we implement Action Step across law firms. Quite often, we're interacting with law firms, implementing their Action Step system, but they've made individual choices around other technology tooling, or even maybe their IT strategy that actually doesn't allow them to get the benefit out of Action Step, i.e., the lovely browser-based experience and getting rid of virtual desktops. For Oliver, for yourself, in terms of looking forward and those law firms at a crossroads, for those ones that don't know whether they need to make a change, whether they need, whether, that don't know whether their actual current tech strategy is fulfilling the requirements of the law firm, what questions should they start asking themselves internally? What should be brought up at the next partners meeting as to what they should investigate or understand within their firm as to whether they maybe are not on the right track?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan of like the theory of constraints. I think they should definitely be trying to identify where the constraints are in the firm. Um, in every area, what are the constraints in the finance team, in the IT, with the IT team, in, private client, in conveyancing, in, whatever different areas of law they do. But really speaking to people, understanding where the constraints are, and um, that's yeah, that's probably where I'd start, if they don't already have a really good understanding of that, and then really looking at doing a bit of an audit of their whole kind of tech stack and figuring out like if they kind of envision the firm in 5 years, is that tech stack going to be the tech stack that gets them there, and or in 5 years will they be, if AI accelerates, the legal industry as quickly as and changes the legal industry as quickly as a lot of people think it will, um, are they going to be in 3 years completely on the back foot? And maybe there are other firms across the road are going to be in a much better place to adapt. So I think that's probably like there's a lot of uncertainties right now, and I definitely don't know what the future holds. I think anyone, even on the broader kind of AI conversation, not just in the legal sector, but even if you listen to like, the big giants in AI right now, all of their CEOs have a different perspective on where we're going and what AI is going to do. And I think in the legal sector as well, there's lots of different voices and perspectives, and there's crazy tech that's coming out all the time. Really cool stuff. There's AI receptionists, there's AI time recording applications. There's really cool tech that's coming out, AI kind of risk and compliance. And and so we don't know what that's going to do to the legal industry, but we know it's going to change it somewhat. That AI is going to, and it already is. We're already seeing that happen. So I think firms that can't be agile and adapt based on that will struggle. It like that's just a fact. And so I think that's probably, if I was running a law firm, I would be thinking about that. Like with the whatever changes are coming, am I going to, does my tech allow me to be agile enough to adapt to that, or could we actually face an existential crisis? I mean, COVID was a good example of when that happened. A lot of firms weren't prepared from a tech standpoint, and so they were on the back foot, and they had to kind of in a panic set up for a remote infrastructure and get remote desktops or Citrix environments or things like that. And it was costly. It was, a lot of firms ended up with a kind of less than ideal setup, and some firms are still kind of running on that. So I think this is a unique opportunity for firms to to get ahead of the curve a little bit. And a lot of firms already have made that decision and are kind of on that journey now. And I don't think it's too late. Like AI hasn't completely upended the legal industry yet. It's changing it definitely, and it will continue to change it. But there's a really unique kind of window of time, I'd say right now, where firms can actually, you know, choose to give themselves more kind of agility and more flexibility whenever these changes come.
It's about creating the conditions for success. So the changes are going to happen over the coming years. The same way as the recent changes have been very focused on the client journey over the recent years post COVID because of the impact of COVID. You need to be able to do digital onboarding more effectively and so on and so forth. Now, okay, well, what's the next phase? Elements of it are going to be AI powered. There are going to be specialist tools that come from nowhere that disrupt the market. It's about creating the conditions for success to be able to make those positive choices. I would urge law firms to look at their tech strategy holistically.
Mhm.
You don't be held back sticking with, for example, a legacy tool because it does a small proportion of what you need to do across the firm, better than other products. Look at the overall strategy holistically. how can we get rid of expensive hosting costs, virtual desktop? How can we improve the user experience as well as have that agility of adopting new tech as it emerges? So it's about the conditions for success. I love process mapping, so in the same way as you've pointed towards those areas that are of friction within a law firm. I urge law firms to look at how they operate, look at those points of friction, and use that as a basis to make decisions moving forward, rather than once again isolated decisions that maybe don't join up effectively. So yeah, wonderful, absolutely wonderful. So yeah, thanks for that, guys. We've run out of time. As always, I've forgotten to flag that you can ask questions at any point. It is the running theme of every webinar I've ever run. So please, if you have any follow-up questions, flag them to myself, or the guys are of course available on LinkedIn, and are happy to interact with anybody that's got a question. In terms of looking forward, our next session. He's leaning more on that, more on the IT side of things. Oh, so first of all, to point out, this is part of a series. It's a 7-part series exploring that legal modern workplace. This was a really important session because we're talking about creating that ecosystem, that case and practice management ecosystem. But what it does, if you follow that strategy, is open the doors to wider improvements across your tech strategy and your user experience. And we're exploring various subjects across this subject all the way until the beginning of the summer. So the next episode is really focused on the IT side of things. If you get that browser-based experience going across your case and practice management system, what does it mean for your wider tech stack? We're going to explore how law firms are benefiting from moving away from Citrix and other virtual desktop solutions to operating more heavily around Microsoft 365. This is obviously enabled by moving to browser-based products such as Exizent and ActionStep and others. So we're going to be engaging with the wonderful David Jackson, who from Dawes Clayton, 100+ law firm that are operating in that world now. No hosting, no virtual desktop, no Citrix licenses, just a great user experience and that ecosystem strategy that we've talked about. And then we're supported by Pax8, our Microsoft specialist partners, to talk about what's happening in the Microsoft world and how that can support this journey for law firms. And then the white paper itself is available on our website if you want to click on. There you go. So on the Insights page, please have a look at that, download it, and we explore this and other subjects. So wonderful. Thanks, Oliver. Thanks, Philip. Great session, great conversation. Thanks, everyone. Speak to you soon.
Thanks, everyone.
Good night, sir.